We all make bad decisions in our everyday job, some decisions worse than others, some decisions that are so bad that it warrants immediate termination. And unfortunately for the Dallas Mavericks and their fans, it was a situation of too little too late in the firing of their GM, Nico Harrison, who had made one of the worst decisions in front office history, trading their franchise player, one of the top 5 players in the league in the peak of his prime, a guy that had just taken you to the finals the season prior, trading Luka Doncic to the LA Lakers, a transaction that should have been shot down the moment it was presented to leadership, a fireable offense the moment the trade deal was done, a move so egregious, so shocking that even when the Shams bomb first went out, none of us believed it. Shams himself had to follow up the announcement saying, quote unquote, this is real, because none of us could fathom why. Why would the Mavs do this? Because as we've said before, if the Mavericks did in fact want out of the Luka Doncic business, if they truly believe Luka wasn't going to get them over the hump and win a title, if they didn't like his work ethic, his attitude, if they didn't want to extend him to another max contract, which he was soon going to be eligible for at that time, why? Why would you not start a bidding war and open it up to the rest of the league that a superstar in his prime is available and getting the best offer possible that matches Luka's value? When guys like Rudy Gobert are commanding 5 first-round picks, Mikal Bridges 6 first-round picks, old man Kevin Durant coming from Brooklyn even netted 4 first-round picks when he was traded to the Suns. It is egregious malpractice to only land 1 first-round pick for Luka Doncic, a franchise-altering mistake, especially when we're seeing Luka play the way he has been playing with the Lakers, and of course, just how bad the Mavericks have looked to kick off this season. But we aren't here to rehash just how bad the Luka trade was. We know Nico Harrison has now been fired. What's done is done and cannot be undone. Firing Harrison isn't going to get Luka back, and it isn't going to change the current state of this Mavs team. So the question now is, where do the Mavs go from here? Because even though they were thrown one of the biggest bones after making that horrendous trade and gifted a generational prospect in Cooper Flagg, the Mavs need to be able to salvage and make quick changes in short order to be able to save and maximize the Flagg era in Dallas, something that is not going to be easy, not an easy feat under new leadership. Be sure to subscribe if you like this type of content, and in return I'll be providing more NBA content like this. Now, Nico Harrison may be gone, but the Mavs, as they currently stand, are one of the worst teams in the league right now, sitting towards the bottom of the Western Conference with the second to worst offense in the NBA and an overall net rating ranked 24th in the league. They're the worst 3-point shooting team in the league. They average the fewest points per game in the NBA at just 10. They don't move the ball well. They're bottom 5 in the league in passing. They turn the ball over at a high rate. And to make it worse, they've had one of the easiest strength of schedules in the NBA, despite being 3-8 through their first 11 games. And outside of Cooper Flagg, they don't really project to be a team that has future assets with upside potential. Yeah, I realize they're a bit banged up right now. Derek Lively hasn't played much. Gafford has been injured. AD has been hurt. Shocker. What do you expect when you trade an injury-prone player on the wrong side of 30 as your main piece as part of the Luka trade? But obviously, Kyrie hasn't played yet this season and likely won't until midway through the year. But even the injuries aside, it's clear this team isn't going to be good enough to compete for anything. Like, I never bought all the narratives going around that, hey, when Kyrie comes back and if this team can stay healthy, they're going to be scary. They're going to have championship potential. I never understood that. I didn't think they would be as bad as they have been, but I really didn't see this team being anything more than a first-round exit at best in a stacked Western Conference. But regardless of where they are now, it's clear the Mavs are already in too deep, too far back in the standings to really make a playoff push. I know some will say, hey, it's way too early to be making that kind of statement. It's really not in the West, because all the teams ahead of them, outside of maybe the Jazz and the Kings if they blow it up, which it sounds like is a real possibility, but all the other teams in front of them are trying to compete. They're trying to win games. So even if Anthony Davis comes back healthy, Lively comes back, and the Mavs start playing a little bit better, it's not going to be the point where they're suddenly going to start stacking a bunch of wins in a row, especially now their schedule is going to be getting harder. Holding down the fort until Kyrie gets back is going to be no easy task. And even then, how do we know Kyrie is going to be the same player? Kyrie is about to be 34 years old, coming off a major injury. You think he's going to just pick things up where he left off and be peak Kyrie? No. So no, the Mavs, in order for them to really salvage this and start a new era of Mavs basketball that is centered around building around Cooper Flagg while he's still young and hasn't entered his prime yet, is paramount for this team. You have to remember, the Mavs, because of the previous trades that they've made, they do not have control of their first round picks in 2027, 28, 29, and 30. Those have been traded as pick swaps or traded entirely to other teams. Yes, you have that one lone first-round pick that's unprotected in 2029 from the Lakers as part of that Luka deal, which is likely going to be a late first-rounder at this point. And on top of that, the Mavs currently are just a tad under the second apron from a cap perspective, holding the most expensive contracts for older veteran players that should no longer fit their current timeline. AD is owed $54, $58, and $62 million respectively over the next 3 seasons, the last year being a player option. Kyrie also 3 years left at $36, $39, and $42 million. Klay Thompson, who is a complete shell of himself at this point, still has 2 more years left on his deal, valued at $16 and $17 million respectively. Daniel Gafford, PJ Washington, who are younger at least and can still be productive, they decided to extend them to pretty hefty contracts. PJ Washington in particular I thought was an overpay at 4 years, $90 million. But in any event, the Mavs are in salary cap hell. They're projected to be over the second apron next season when PJ Washington's new contract kicks in, salary cap hell, and limited control over their draft assets. But you know what pick the Mavs do have control over? Their pick in this upcoming draft in 2026, a draft class that is projected to be one of the best in over a decade, a draft class that features franchise-changing players in the top 3, some are even saying in the top 5, and it would be in the Mavs' best interest, given the fact that this season is more or less already over for them and actually being able to compete for anything. It is in their best interest to go on a fire sale, get whatever they can for Anthony Davis, Kyrie, PJ Washington, yes, even Klay Thompson, even if it means buying out his contract, trying to accumulate as many draft picks and young players as they possibly can that fit the timeline with Cooper Flagg and complement his skill sets. Focus on his development, focus on the development of Derek Lively. You dump your higher dollar contracts, give yourself some salary relief, be bad for the rest of the season, and position yourself for the best chance at landing a player like a Darren Peterson, like a Cam Boozer, or AJ Dybonsta. Players that are going to immediately elevate your new timeline and position you well into the future, having 2 of the best young prospects from the last 2 draft classes. Like, I'm not normally one to promote tanking. I think it's a bad strategy that relies mostly on luck and is not a foolproof plan to get your franchise out of poverty, but for a team like the Mavericks, they have no choice. This is their only way out of the current disaster they find themselves in after trading away a once-in-a-lifetime type player. Yeah, they're probably not going to get the best value for guys like AD and Kyrie, but it certainly won't be nothing. And by taking your older veterans off of your roster, you can focus exclusively on developing Cooper Flagg as your next franchise player, while also being bad for a season, adding yet another franchise player. Yeah, they might miss, they might get unlucky and not land a great prospect, but what else do they have to lose? What's the alternative? You play the numbers and take a low-risk, high-reward option to save this franchise from the mess that Nico Harrison left. Don't think that guy's going to be finding a job anytime soon in an NBA front office. But anyway, just my take on the matter. I would love to hear what you guys think. You let me know in the comments. As always, be sure to subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.